Hi everyone, this is the third reading that I'm doing from the book The Heart of Understanding, Prajnaparamita text, Lotus Sutra, and it's a commentary by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, profound, simple, short booklet, and that I hope will help you to gain a perspective that holds the whole, and that also helps you to surrender to what is more gracefully and not go with full resistance and a lot of suffering and pain. And so the last reading we did was of the interbeing, and this one we're going to do of empty of what. We left with, but the Heart Sutra seems to say the opposite. Avalokishtavara tells us that things are empty. Let us look more closely, because that reading was about the interbeing, how everything is interdependent on each other. And so if everything is interdependent on each other, then how is it empty, right? That's the question that comes up. So empty of what? The Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the deep course of perfect understanding, shed light on the 5 skandhas and found them equally empty. Bodhi means being awake, and Sattva means a living being, or Bodhisattva means an awakened being. All of us are sometimes Bodhisattvas and sometimes not. Avalokita is the name of the Bodhisattva in this sutra. Avalokita is just a shorter version of Avalokishtavara. The heart of the Prajnaparamita Sutra is a wonderful gift to us from Avalokishtavara Bodhisattva. In Chinese, Vietnamese, Koreans, Japanese, we translate his name as Kuan Yin or Kuan Im or Kenon. And in the Tibetan Buddhism, we call Avalokishtavara Chendrasik. Okay? And so, which means the one who listens and hears the cries of the world in order to come and help. In the East, many Buddhists pray to him or invoke his name. Avalokishtavara Bodhisattvas gives us the gift of non-fear because he himself has transcended fear. Sometimes Avalokita is a man and sometimes a woman. Perfect understanding is Prajnaparamita. The word wisdom is usually used to translate prajna, but I think that wisdom is somehow not able to convey the meaning. Understanding is like water flowing in a stream. Wisdom and knowledge are solid and can block our understanding. In Buddhism, knowledge is regarded as an obstacle for understanding. If we take something to be the truth, we may cling to it so much that even if the truth comes and knocks at our door, we won't want to let it in. We have to be able to transcend our previous knowledge the way we climb up a ladder. If we are on the 5th rung and think that we are very high, there is no hope for us to step up to the 6th. We must understand, we must learn to transcend our views. Understanding, like water, can flow, can penetrate. Views, knowledge, and even wisdom are solid and can block the way of understanding. According to Avalokishtavara, this sheet of paper is empty, but according to our analysis, it is full of everything. There seems to be a contradiction between our observation and his. Avalokita found the 5 skandhas empty, but empty of what? The key word is empty. To be empty is to be empty of something. So I'm holding a cup of water and I ask you, is this cup empty? You will say no, it is full of water. But if I pour out the water and ask you again, you may say, yes, it is empty. But empty of what? Empty means empty of something. The cup cannot be empty of nothing. Empty does not mean anything unless you know empty of what. My cup is empty of water, but it is not empty of air. To be empty is to be empty of something. This is quite a discovery. When Avalokita says that the 5 skandhas are equally empty, to help him be precise, we must ask, Mr. Avalokita, empty of what? The 5 skandhas, or the 5 aggregates, which may be translated into English as 5 heaps or 5 aggregates, are the 5 elements that comprise a human being. These 5 elements flow like a river in every one of us. In fact, these are really 5 rivers flowing together in us. The river of form, which means our body, the river of feelings, the river of perception, the river of mental formations, and the river of consciousness. They are always flowing in us. So according to Avalokita, when he looked deeply into the nature of these 5 rivers, he suddenly saw that all 5 are empty. And if we ask, empty of what? He has to answer, and this is what he said. They are empty of a separate self. That means none of these 5 rivers can exist by itself alone. Each of the 5 rivers has to be made by the other 4. They have to coexist. They have to interbe with all the others. In our bodies, we have lungs, heart, kidneys, stomach, and blood. And none of these things can exist independently. They can only coexist with the others. Your lungs and your blood are 2 things, but neither can exist separately. The lungs take in air and enrich the blood, and in turn the blood nourishes the lungs. Without the blood, the lungs cannot be alive, and without the lungs, the blood cannot be cleansed. Lungs and blood inter-are. The same is true with kidneys and blood, kidneys and stomach, lungs and heart, blood and heart, and so on. When Avalokita says that our sheet of paper is empty, he means it is empty of a separate, independent existence. It cannot just be by itself. It has to interbe with the sunshine, the cloud, the forest, the logger, the mind, and everything else. It is empty of a separate self, but empty of a separate self means full of everything. So it means that our observation and that of Avalokita do not contradict each other after all. Avalokita looked deeply into the 5 skandhas of form, feelings, perceptions, mental formation, and consciousness, and he discovered that none of them can be by itself alone. Each can only interbe with all the others. So he tells us that form is empty. Form is empty of a separate self, but it is full of everything in the cosmos. The same is true with feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. And that's our 3rd reading. So there's a lot to contemplate here. And with the virus going on, it really gives us an opportunity to look at how it all came to be, right? Because it didn't come independently. When we get into politics or economics or health or whatever, we always look at how do I take care of myself, and how do I take care of my kids, how do I take care. So suppose that somebody has been taking care of themselves really, really well, and then this virus shows up, and then it kind of pokes a hole in that control mechanism of trying to protect the self. And this virus, suppose say that it really did come from Wuhan, from the wet market. Who could have imagined that that person and I and you are interconnected, that we are inter-are, right? We inter-are in that sense. And just because that we have not penetrated into it enough to see it clearly does not free us from the consequences of those karmic conditions, those cause and effects that are happening out of sight, out of mind from ourselves. And so I feel it's always very fascinating, and then also very useful to kind of connect the dots as much as you can, so that we don't, so the loneliness kind of goes away. That was the first thing that I noticed, is this sense of loneliness, sadness. That lonely sadness comes from this feeling of because the self, the independent individual self, it becomes so big that I cannot see anything else but this self. And even if I look at the whole cosmos, I can't see anything else but this self. That's this huge boulder in front of me, which is me, I. And it covers all the interconnections that we live with. And so Dharma has a way of really cutting through a lot of blockages, bullshits and stuff. And so this helps a lot for me. And sometimes I really want solace. I want, somebody to say, it's all okay, everything's going to be fine. And but reality doesn't care about what I want or what my wishes are or something like that. It works in conjunction with everything else. The only kind of a free will choice that I have is how I respond in this immediate, my own, space of impact, right? And then there's a dance that happens. And so, anyways, without going through a lot of rants, I feel there's a lot to contemplate.